Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright with Dr. Robert Wright Jr. of www.stressfreenow.info.
Hi, this is Dr. Bob coming to you today from the gorgeous Juneau, Alaska. So even though it isn't sunny here today, it's kind of overcast or partly cloudy. This is, for me, just a majestic experience, and I hope it would be for you. When I came through the first time on the first leg of the cruise, I didn't really see any of Juneau because it was rainy and foggy, etc. In fact, we're coming from Icy Point, Alaska, and we were supposed to go through the glacier. I think it was the Dawes Glacier, but the captain determined that it was not safe because due to the fog and it was apparently too thick. So we actually arrived in Juneau much earlier. We were originally supposed to get here at 2:30 in the afternoon, but people were getting off the ship at 12 noon. So that gives people more time to spend in port. And this ship leaves at, I think, 8 p.m. tonight. And so I wanted, on this travel tip, is about when is a good time to consider taking a cruise. Well, if it's an Alaska cruise, the season runs pretty much from April until the end of October. There may be one or two cruise lines that have a cruise in early November, but pretty much most of the Alaska cruise season is shut down by the end of October. In fact, I understand that this ship, I'm on the Norwegian Jewel. This ship, when it finishes its Alaska season, and can you hear that? This is like, I love when I'm doing a video and the noise starts up. That tells me that I'm doing the right thing. And so if you have the experience of when you're trying to accomplish something that people, entities, or just nitwits, they try to rain on your parade. And so now, because of that noise, I'm going to shoot more videos for you than I would have, because this is an indication of the nonsense that goes on when people are trying to do good. And that is a real lesson for you, that what you want to do in life is to turn lemons into lemonade. On an everyday situation, when I talk to people, I'm just amazed at how much pressure the average person is under, especially the people that are in the rat race. And remember, you're not a rat. So why should you be running around like a rat or a chicken that had its head cut off, flapping around? And so, because of what just happened, I'm going to share some information with you. So, if you've been reading the news for the past year or so, bosses have been upset because people are refusing to return to the office. And so, here's the thing. Prior to the pandemic, people were commuting to work sometimes 2 to 3 hours each way, paying tolls, paying for parking, paying for lunch. And then the pandemic just put a pause on all of that, and it forced people to do a reassessment of what's really important to you. Many of us had people that died from COVID or were sick or still sick, because some people have long tail COVID, or because of the emphasis of treating people for COVID, other ailments were ignored. And so surgeries were put off, and people literally were afraid to go to the doctor. I remember taking my father to see his doctor, and I remember this was in early 2020, and the entrance to the doctor's office, which is actually a complex where multiple physicians were, they had a sign on the door, and the sign said, "If you have a cough or if you think you have COVID, please do not come inside. Go to the emergency room." And I remember how shocked I was when I saw that. I was like, "Oh my goodness, the person is sick, but they can't go in to see the doctor." So many people seem to have had like a form of denial or almost amnesia that we went through literally 2+ years of being shut down. And so one of the main things that shut down was travel. And so I remember being quite angry because I lost my round the world ticket where I was going on a trip, never thinking that even when the airlines extended the the period that I could fly, that it would be 2 years, and all of my tickets expired. I lost $5,000 in airline tickets. So I was pretty pissed off. And the fortunate thing is that I had not booked my hotels. But who could think that the pandemic could last more than 2 years? And so the thing is, I made it up in my mind that when the green travel light came on, I was going to travel with wild abandon. And so I have been doing that. Since March 2022, I have been traveling nonstop. But guess what? I have met more people on the various cruises that cruise 10 times more than I cruise, travel 10 times more than I travel. How much? I'm coming off the elevator at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I asked the guy, I said, "Hey, how many cruises have you taken?" He goes, let me see. He says, "Well, when I got to 125 cruises, I stopped counting. Because what's the point? 125 plus cruises. Whoa, that was like, remember the cartoon character Popeye? He says, "Well, blow me down." So my mind couldn't even imagine somebody taking that many cruises. And basically, I've met quite a few people that are essentially living on cruise ships. And so, so in that case, when is the best time to cruise? Anytime. And then just yesterday, I met a whole series of people who they have found ways to cruise very cheaply. And so I'm not going to reveal that information on this podcast. You have to come to my membership site and where I reveal travel secrets in terms of how to even get a free cruise or how to use your frequent flyer points, etc. I have been finding out some amazing information from people who are really savvy travelers. So I found out that basically, I've been to 75 plus countries as a tourist, but I'm actually a novice when I talk to these people. On a cruise out of New York to Italy, I met this guy who he basically retired when he was 44 years old, and now he's 54. And he showed me that he has been taking 30 cruises per year for the last 10 years. And I'm like, whoa. In 10 years, he took 300 cruises. That is, I don't know about for you, but that is mind-boggling. But back to the point of our story. So If you want to go someplace warm, like the Caribbean, basically you can travel anytime. The only thing is from about June until October is the hurricane season. So sometimes if you take a Caribbean cruise during that time, you could run into a tropical storm or a hurricane approaching. And then usually the cruise lines do the smart thing, which is that they divert the ship, et cetera, and you lose some stops on your itinerary in order to keep the ship stable. And that is something that you have to understand if you're traveling, that the number one thing you need to have is a mindset that where you're okay with being flexible. Missed flights, I was in the Azores last year, and the hotel I was staying in was about 40 minutes from the airport. And as soon as I brought my luggage out to the taxi, it started to drizzle. And I said, well, par for the course. Okay, this is the last day I'm going to the airport. And as we drove to the airport, the rain got heavier and heavier and heavier. And so by the time we got to the airport, it was raining quite hard. So my flight was in about 90 minutes. And I was waiting in the airport like everybody else, checked in, etc. So here's the thing. About 25 minutes before that flight was supposed to take off, the storm was so strong that I got concerned about the safety inside the airport. Now, I was on the island of St. George, which is Punta Delgado in the Azores, and San Miguel. So the front of the airport is all glass, very lovely. I would say. One side is glass, so the whole front is glass on the side. And so it's very gorgeous. You can look out and you can see while you're inside the airport. So it's quite lovely. So here's the thing. So that storm picked up to the point where I got really concerned that as the glass in the airport started to rattle, I was like, oh my God, I better find someplace safe in case one of those glass planes gets blown out. That's how strong. I don't know how the wind was over 70 miles an hour. So it wasn't a hurricane. I guess that's the category 1 hurricane. But the wind was way over 70 miles an hour. I have no idea. So just then, the lights went out in the airport. So that wasn't part of my fantasy trip. I didn't imagine that the lights would go out. So here's the thing. So here's what happened. So now announcement came on and said that all flights were canceled. So now the flights were canceled. So what are you going to do? So I already checked out of my hotel. So now everybody's lined up and, trying to see, well, when's the next flight going to be out, which will probably be the next day, because that was the last flight flying to, I think it was flying to Boston from the Azores. So when I got up to the counter, I said to the lady behind the counter, I said, listen, what's the compensation that you're offering? I already checked out of my hotel, you're giving hotel, taxi, whatever. And she said, oh, no, absolutely not. We're not giving you anything. And I said, what? I said, the flights are canceled. You have to give some kind of compensation. She said, no. So I said, well, okay, I don't have money. I didn't bring extra money for this trip. So I said, I'm going to sleep in the airport. And then she said, oh, you can't sleep in the airport because the airport closes at 8 p.m. I said, then I'll sleep up against the door because this is a ridiculous policy. Your airline. And I flew on Azores airline, right? It was a gorgeous tour, but at the end of the trip, it's like, okay, so why is this happening? Well, the thing is, things happen, but travel providers don't always do the right thing. So just then, a supervisor came up and he said, "Let me handle this." And he said, "Come with me, sir, to another counter." And so we went to another counter, and then, fortunately, reason intervened, and not only did I get a hotel, I got taxi and vouchers for food, which should have been. So they weren't offering it to customers. So I just was like, hey, I'll lean up against the door of the airport, and be there. So that's the thing. Now, I have to say, I was traveling by myself. If I were traveling with my wife, would I have done the same thing? I don't know. But I remember I was pretty angry, and so sometimes you have to get angry because travel providers, it's unfortunate the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if you don't complain, so here would be another example. I met a couple, and again, I asked the question, what's the best cruise you ever been on, or what did you ever have anything unexpected happen on a cruise? And so they were from Canada, I think Vancouver, and they were taking a cruise out of Argentina. So they had booked the cruise and the flights through the cruise line. And so what happened was they had a connecting flight through Miami and then on to Buenos Aires, so where the cruise was leaving from. But guess what happened? When they got to Miami, although they were there on time and everything, the airline bumped them. And they were a party of eight people traveling together. And they bumped all 8 of them. So guess what happened? The ship left. By the time they got to Buenos Aires, the ship had already left. So the airline did eventually fly them to the second port, which I don't know. I would imagine it'd be Montevideo because that's very close to Buenos Aires. So I asked them this question. I said, what compensation did you get? And then they shrugged. They said, compensation. I said, well, the airline bumped you. You paid for your ticket. You missed the ship because of the airline. That's through no fault of your own. And so they didn't get any compensation. So here's the thing. There's almost like 2 worlds out here. There are people, when something goes wrong, they take care of them. And there's everybody else. So remember that. And so if they don't take care of you during your trip, write to the FAA, the Federal Trade Commission. You want to complain, send a letter, a certified mail, return receipt, go online, fill out the form, do whatever you have to do, because travel providers don't always do the right thing. And this was no fault of the cruise line. This was the airline. And so, again, unless you've been living in a cave or hiding under a rock, the news you've seen for the last 18 months, there have been tremendous problems with the airlines, right? Delta Airlines had to fly a plane, an empty plane from Heathrow all the way to, I think it was to Chicago or Detroit, and the plane had no passengers, it just had luggage that had been left. It had some kind of glitch with the system in London. There was a worst case with Lufthansa airline. Oh my gosh. Lufthansa Airlines stranded 130,000 people between they had a problem with the workers going on strike, and so anybody that was flying through Frankfurt or Brussels, and I think that they have 3 airlines that are associated with Lufthansa, and so basically last summer 130,000 people got stranded for a couple of weeks, actually. And so that wasn't the only case. So here's why I'm telling you that story, those stories, because one of the best things you could do for yourself is to drive to a cruise port. If you live any place near where a cruise departs. So if you're on the East Coast, cruises depart from Boston, from New York. In fact, there's three cruise ports in New York. They leave from Manhattan, leave from Brooklyn, and they also leave from Bayonne, New Jersey. That's mostly Royal Caribbean. Then you've got Baltimore, and then you have, I think, Virginia Beach, or it's Norfolk. Then you've got Charleston, South Carolina, Savannah, and then there's Jacksonville, Orlando, and Fort Lauderdale and Miami. Those are all places that you could cruise from on the East Coast. On the West Coast, I'm not that familiar with, but I know they have cruise ports in San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and there might be a cruise port in Portland, and then of course in Seattle. And so on the Canadian side there, you have, the ships that go depart from Vancouver or apart from Juneau or from Anchorage or Seward. And then on the other side of Canada, they have cruises departing from Montreal and Quebec City, and then also going into Maine. In the southern part of the United States, I really haven't paid that much attention to, but I know I've talked to people that have cruised out of Houston, and also New Orleans. And, there's also Tampa, Florida, where people cruise out of. So if you can get to any of those places and the pricing is good, I highly recommend that instead of flying, and here's one of the best things about why you don't want to go through the airport if you can avoid it. Because when you drive, if you're not going through airport security, you can take all the stuff you need. You can bring scissors and hand cream. You can bring all the things that they confiscate at the airport. You can bring them on the cruise. Of course, not anything that's dangerous. But what I'm saying is that it is a totally different experience. So basically, if in terms of the when of cruising, you can look around the world. You have cruises that go out of French Polynesia, Australia, New Zealand, cruises that go out of Asia, go out of Singapore, Hong Kong, out of Tokyo, Osaka. You have cruises that, sail out of Bangkok. And then, of course, in Europe, you got, ports in Italy, France, Spain, Greece, et cetera, and then you have cruises that cruise out of, like, say, Mauritius or the Seychelles or a place like Dubai or Doha, and so you have a wide assortment. And then, depending on your budget and your time, you have world cruises, or you have extended voyages that are 15-day plus. So to my utter surprise, I have met many people, much more than I could have ever imagined, who are cruising almost all the time. And so I want to close on this note. When I talked to the guy that takes 30 cruises a year, I asked him this question. I go, what do your family and friends say? What do they think? And he said, they think I'm crazy. He goes, but how crazy is this? I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean my own toilet. I don't have to make my own bed. I meet interesting people every day. I have access to spa, swimming pool, entertainment, and the room service is free. Oh, and because I cruise a lot, I get all kinds of discounts from the loyalty program. And so there you have it. So for people like that have been bitten by the serious cruise and travel bug, my hat's off to them. So, as I said, I'm still a novice. I've only been on about 20 cruises. So, talking to somebody that's been on 125 cruises or like that guy did 300 cruises, it's just like, whoa, it's so far away. But at the same time, I meet many people, to my surprise, who it's their first cruise. And so, sometimes it's their family, sometimes it's, they're doing a family reunion, or it's just a group of friends that over the years they met, and so they decide to take cruises together. It's really, really cool. So here's the thing. Alaska is a fantastic destination. So you need to put it at the top of your travel bucket list. This is just a magnificent place. So I'm going to close by panning what's out here so you can get a better view. We're in a container port, but just look at the clouds there. And as I said, we did not go through the glacier. I think it was the Dawes Glacier because the captain deemed it was unsafe. And I'm really happy when safety is the top priority. I know some passengers get upset and they're like, "Oh, we're disappointed." I'm saying, listen, safety, number one, always. And so this is Dr. Bob signing off from Juneau, Alaska, wishing you well and reminding you to do what you already know, which is to take better care of yourself. And don't be like U.B. Blake, when he said at his 100th birthday party, he said, well, if I knew I was going to live to be 100, I would take better care of myself. So that's very good advice. So start taking care of yourself right now. So if you like what you hear and see with our Stress Free Now podcast series, hit that like button, or as the young people keep telling me, smash that like button. Okay? And so this is Dr. Bob. Until next time, be safe and be well.